I was told by my son, Henry, that his spouse, Michelle, cheated on him and even had a child with another man. I can't forgive her for cheating and tricking me like this. I'm gonna get a divorce. A month after he declared this, I got a call. Hi, Susie, it's been a while. I'm getting discharged from the hospital tomorrow and will be coming over. Michelle's innocent voice came through the phone. I couldn't understand what she was talking about. Huh? Aren't you and Henry divorced? What? Divorced? Me and Henry? Oh, come on, Susie, stop joking around. That's not true. From her words, it didn't seem like Michelle was lying. But of course, I couldn't just take her word for it. Suspicious, I decided to confront Henry, who was relaxing at home. Henry, I just got a call from Michelle, and what she's saying is completely different from what you told me. Upon hearing this, Henry started to tremble and clammed up. My husband, Ken, who was watching the situation, thought it was odd and grabbed his baseball bat, slamming it down on the table. Thinking he was about to get hit, Henry finally started talking. Wait, please. Don't hit me. I'll tell you everything, I promise. I'm Susie. My husband Ken is a retired police officer, and now it's just the two of us living together. Our son, Henry, lives independently and works as a freelancer using social media. I'm not too familiar with that field, but it seems he makes a living through his illustrations. He's quite well reputed and has even been interviewed on TV. Ken, having been a cop, initially didn't understand Henry's line of work. But now, he seems to have come around to accepting it. Since retiring, Ken has mellowed out and helps around the house, something he never had time for before. We live in a house with a garden, and I was looking forward to gardening with Ken. Then, on a sunny day, as we were tending to the garden, Henry suddenly showed up. Ken and I stopped our work in surprise. Henry, this is unexpected. Henry was grinning. I just heard you guys having fun and wanted to check it out. What's with that grin? Got a problem? Ken seemed a bit embarrassed. He scowled and silently resumed weeding. Don't be like that. So, what brings you here? Well, I have some important news. Suddenly, Henry's expression turned serious, making me brace myself for what was to come. Well, it's not ideal to talk while standing, so please have a seat. I suggested. Henry and I sat side by side on a small bench in the garden. Ken seemed concerned but chose not to join in the conversation, busily continuing to pull weeds. I'm thinking of getting married. Really? Congratulations! I was genuinely happy for Henry's marriage. Ken, clearly surprised, stood up to look at us. So, who is she? Henry grinned again. Her name's Michelle. And, she's actually outside our house right now. What? Huh? Ken and I exclaimed in unison. This was too sudden, and I wasn't prepared at all. Hold on. I can't meet her without even putting on makeup. It's fine. Being natural is best. Michelle is a good person, no worries. I'll go call her. Watching Henry go to call Michelle, I sighed. Looking at Ken, he seemed just as incredulous, shaking his head at me. Well, that's just like them. Always like this. What a predicament. Well, it can't be helped. It'd leave a bad impression to send her away after bringing her here. Soon, Michelle arrived, led by Henry. Under the afternoon sun, she looked radiant. Her clothes and mannerisms were charming, and she seemed well raised. I felt embarrassed about my own attire, impressed as I was by Michelle. Mom, Dad, let me introduce you. This is Michelle. Nice to meet you. I'm Michelle, Henry's girlfriend. Thank you for coming here. Normally, we should have greeted you properly inside, not out here in the garden. Oh, that's all right. What a lovely garden you have. So many beautiful flowers. May I help out sometime? Michelle's eyes sparkled. Her childlike, innocent smile made me happy too. Ken also looked pleased. Well, Henry's really lucky to have you. He might not be perfect, but please take good care of him. I also ask you to take care of him. But Henry, next time, make sure to tell us in advance. I chided. Henry sheepishly scratched the back of his head. Actually, Michelle was only free today, and she thought it'd make things tense if we called ahead. He explained. Michelle shot Henry a look of mild disapproval. Well, that's all right. Let's go inside for some coffee. Sorry, we have another appointment after this. We'll let you know once we set a date for the wedding. With that, the two of them left us standing in the garden. It all happened so fast, it felt like a daydream. What just happened? It's fine. Times are different from when we were young. They're both responsible adults, so it'll be all right. I guess so. Despite my worries, Henry and Michelle got married without a hitch. They seemed to be doing well even after their marriage. Living not too far from us, Michelle would come to help us out whenever she had time. We'd chat and garden together, and she'd ask to learn my recipes. Ken and I grew quite fond of her, always looking out for her. There didn't seem to be any mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues, and our relationship was very good. However, Michelle seemed tired. Dark circles under her eyes and slightly hollowed cheeks. One day, while eating snacks, I decided to ask her. Michelle, you seem tired lately. I'm worried. I've been busy with work. Michelle was hiding something. I could feel it. Ken sensed it too and spoke gently. Michelle, don't hesitate to talk to us. We're family. It's only right to share concerns. Michelle remained silent for a while, munching on her snacks. Then, tears started to fall from her big eyes. Actually, Henry hardly helps with any housework. I understand we're both busy with work, but it's really tough when he doesn't do anything. With that, she bowed her head, her shoulders shaking. She was too sincere to complain about Henry to us, probably bottling it all up. I hugged her gently and whispered. I'm glad you spoke up. We'll talk to Henry, don't worry. We're on your side, Michelle. Thank you. I immediately scolded Henry over the phone. He fumbled for words, making excuses about being busy at work. Cut it out. Being busy is no excuse. Marriage is about supporting each other. I understand. Henry seemed to take it to heart, and it looked like Michelle's burden was lightened. Seeing her cheerful again, I felt relieved. She's such a good person, Henry should be working hard to make her happy. A few years later, in the spring, Michelle told us she was pregnant. My husband and I were thrilled at the prospect of seeing our first grandchild, but things didn't go smoothly. Michelle suddenly fell ill and, after being examined at the hospital, was found to be in a critical condition. She was diagnosed with preterm labor and had to be hospitalized. We prayed desperately for a safe delivery. Thankfully, our prayers were answered, and Michelle gave birth safely. She had no postpartum issues, but to be cautious, she stayed in the hospital for a while and planned to spend some time at our house after being discharged. I was eager to see my grandchild, but I knew Michelle's health wasn't fully recovered. About a month after we had only made congratulatory phone calls. On a rainy day when we weren't gardening, Ken and I were watching TV. Suddenly, Henry came to our house and burst into the living room, crying out loud. Dad, Mom, I can't stay with Michelle anymore. We were both so shocked we couldn't say anything. What do you mean? You just had a child, why would you say that? Exactly. Start explaining. Sniffling, Henry pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket and placed it on the table. Michelle's been acting weird for a while. She said she was visiting my parents, but she wasn't really coming here. She's been cheating. Ken and I exchanged looks of disbelief. We knew she visited us often, so Henry's words seemed hard to believe. I know I've done wrong too, but after Mom scolded me, I seriously reflected on my actions. And yet, Michelle went and had a child. Wait, so the child Michelle gave birth to? Henry slammed his hand on the paper on the table. It's not mine. The DNA test showed no parental relation. This is the report. Can you believe it? She tricked me, acting all innocent. Henry ranted, his anger seemingly uncontainable. Rainwater from his clothes splattered on the table and floor. I picked up the report and tried to read it, but the ink had blurred due to the rain. The report clearly stated there was no parental relation. Ken also looked at the report in disbelief. I didn't want to believe that Michelle cheated and tricked him. We had built such a good relationship with her, and I couldn't imagine her doing such a thing behind that demeanor. Ken felt the same and was visibly confused. Can we trust this report? Shouldn't we investigate more? I already confronted her. Her attitude changed completely. She insulted me, calling me a convenient ATM. I can't believe that. It's true. Not just Michelle, her family blames me too. That's why freelancing is no good, they say. I reached my limit, that's why I came here. So, what do you want to do? I'm cutting ties with Michelle. I don't want anything to do with her family either. You mean divorce? Yes. I have all the evidence. I'm not at fault. Henry seemed to have made up his mind. The situation had progressed so far, there wasn't much we could do, but I wished I could talk to Michelle one more time. All right, we'll be prepared for that. Thanks, Mom. It means a lot. But don't contact Michelle or her family. I'll handle everything. If that's what you've decided, do as you wish. But please, no trouble with the police. I know. I'll be going now. Henry picked up the report, stuffed it in his pocket, and left quickly. After that, we went through some gloomy days. There would be no more Michelle helping in the garden, no more requests to teach her cooking, no seeing our grandchild. It was a saddening thought. I thought we were starting a more joyous chapter in our lives, but this felt lonely. Ken didn't say it, but he seemed lonely too, quietly weeding the garden. Then, one day, about a month into this somber routine, we got a phone call. Hello, this is Susie. Oh, hi Susie. It's been a while. I'm feeling much better and will be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. I'll be heading your way with the baby, so please be ready. Michelle's innocent voice came through. I couldn't understand what she was talking about. Huh? Aren't you and Henry divorced? What? Divorced? Me and Henry? Oh, come on, Susie, stop joking. That's not possible. I was utterly confused and explained to Michelle what Henry had said. At first, Michelle was incredulous, but she got seriously angry when I mentioned the trickery accusation. That's just ridiculous. Henry was the one who restricted me, saying not to meet other men. I followed that rule, and now he accuses me of cheating? Unforgivable. From her words, it didn't seem like Michelle was lying. But of course, I couldn't just take her word for it. Okay, I understand. Henry is actually at home now. I'll talk to him. Please do. Right after I hung up the phone, Ken came back from the garden. What's going on? A little issue. Is Henry in his room? I think so. I heard some talking. I immediately entered Henry's room. He was on a call on his computer, but quickly shut the screen off as I walked in. What the? At least knock before you enter. Sorry. I made some coffee. Wanna have some? Henry seemed to sense something was off, but followed me to the living room without protest. However, there was no coffee there. Hey, there's nothing here. Just sit down. I sat Henry on the sofa and explained my phone conversation with Michelle. Henry started shaking as he listened. He refused to respond to any further questions. Ken, sensing something was off, picked up a baseball bat and slammed it on the table. Henry! Speak up. We can't understand if you stay silent. Deny it if it's not true. Henry remained silent, so Ken raised the bat as if to hit him. Thinking he was going to be hit, Henry finally spoke. Wait! Don't hit me. I'll tell you everything. Please. Hearing this, Ken lowered the bat. All right, speak up. Henry finally confessed. Michelle and I haven't been getting along. I got tempted and cheated with another woman. So, you're the one in the wrong. I'm not to blame. Michelle ignored me, always paying more attention to you and Mom. I hated that. Ken was furious with Henry's excuses. That's ridiculous. You're the one who cheated. What happened to the other woman? Well, she got pregnant. But it's not like I wanted to get her pregnant. It just happened naturally. Ken, seeing no remorse in Henry, hit him with the bat. You fool! Do you understand what it means to have a child? What have you learned in your life? Henry, crying from the hit, lashed out at Ken. Shut up. You're also to blame. Always acting so high and mighty. Always criticizing everything I do. I'm fed up. So you deceived us because you didn't want to be scolded? Yes. I planned the pregnancy dates so it wouldn't seem odd. If things had gone well, I could have pinned it all on Michelle and left her. Henry, defiant, revealed all his actions. Go ahead, hit me. I'll report it to the police. I'll even post it online. Former cop abuses son. It'll make a good story. You can't be serious. But it's true. That's how things work now. You and Mom are just outdated. Please just stop interfering in my life. Threatened with police action, Ken was unable to do anything. Even so, you're the one who lied. How are you going to explain that? Henry no longer listened to me. Mom, can you just be quiet? If you make too much noise, I'll expose it all online. But I wasn't afraid, no matter what he said. It was clear that what Henry did was unforgivable. Regardless of the era. And it was our duty as parents to teach him that. Well, then. If that's how it is. That's right. Keep quiet and I might even share some of my earnings with you. I'm making good money, you know. Henry grinned. Thinking he could buy our silence with money. But that didn't matter to us anymore. Unfortunately, we're satisfied with our lives. Write whatever you want on the internet. I'm going to tell Michelle and her parents. At that, Henry suddenly panicked. He must have realized he had said too much in the heat of the moment. Wait! You can't do that! If her parents find out, it'll be a huge problem. You can't tell them. Ken, fed up, grasped the bat again. Do you really think you can get away with this? It's your fault for concocting such a poor plan. Just accept it. No! I'll write everything online. I'll say it's abuse. Try it if you dare. While Ken was dealing with Henry, I called Michelle and told her everything Henry had said. I told Michelle everything Henry had blurted out. I can't believe it. I've decided. I'm sorry to say this to you, Susie, but I'm going to divorce Henry. I'm the one who should apologize. I'm really sorry. I'll also explain everything to your parents. Then, I called Michelle's parents and told them everything that had happened. They were furious and wanted to have a meeting at my house the next day, so I agreed. When I told Ken, he took away Henry's computer and phone to prevent him from escaping. We watched him all night to make sure he didn't do anything strange. Henry tried to escape several times, but it was futile in front of Ken, a former police officer. The next morning, Michelle and her parents arrived. Michelle's mother agreed to take care of the baby, so they went to another room. Then the discussion began. I'm completely shocked. Never thought he could be such a person. I'm really sorry. We spoiled him too much since he's our only son. Anyway, Henry, explain yourself. Michelle demanded, her face showing an anger I had never seen before. Henry, too scared to meet her gaze, mumbled something inaudibly. Speak up. I can't hear you. Michelle scolded. Henry then spoke louder, explaining everything. When he got to the part about the false accusation of cuckolding, Michelle's father and she both erupted in anger. How dare you accuse our daughter of such a thing? How far will you go to disgrace her? It's unbelievable. Susie and Ken are such good people, what a shame. Faced with everyone's anger, Henry frantically ruffled his hair, unable to lie or make excuses anymore. After all this, I can't continue our marriage. I'm divorcing you. Please sign the divorce papers right now. You'll also have to pay alimony, Michelle declared, placing the divorce papers on the table. Henry shook his head, refusing to sign. Henry, you think you can say no at this point? You brought this on yourself. Sign it, Ken yelled. Unable to resist, Henry signed under our watchful eyes. And sign this too, Michelle said, handing over a document for a generous alimony and child support. Henry reluctantly signed, but then his attitude changed completely. Don't get too happy just because I signed some papers. What are you saying now? Listen up. I'm a famous person. My work sells for a lot. I have value. If you had just obeyed me, you could have enjoyed the benefits too. Henry's outburst was unstoppable. You'll regret cutting ties with me. You'll come crawling back when you're poor and need money. I'll marry my mistress. I don't care about you anymore. With that, Henry grabbed his phone and computer and left our house. An awkward silence filled the room. I'm so sorry. How could he turn out like this? I couldn't help but cry. Even though Michelle and her parents were the real victims. But honestly, divorcing Henry is the right decision. Michelle is a wonderful person, she'll find someone better. It's not about that. But I'm really glad I met you. If it's okay with you, I'd like to maintain the same relationship as before. Michelle's kindness made me feel even more guilty. But then, her father asked us a favor. Actually, we have a request. Our place is far, and Michelle isn't fully recovered. She also has work. Could you please help take care of her and the baby? We were more than willing. Of course, don't hesitate to ask us for anything. We'll treat Michelle like our own daughter. Everyone laughed, relieving the tension. Michelle's mother and the baby came into the living room. We spent time talking about the baby and enjoying their company. If only Henry realized that happiness isn't about money. He's such a fool. Actually, we were the ones who had been helping him get work. I didn't know that. Yes, but we'll stop that now. He won't be able to work as he used to. Michelle's father's words turned out to be true. Without their help, Henry's work opportunities plummeted. But he was too proud to ask us for help. He went on to marry his mistress and had a grand wedding. However, the divorce and his dealings got leaked online, and he faced a huge backlash. When I saw it on the news, I asked Henry if he was okay. He blamed us for the leak and cut ties with us. It didn't end there. It turned out the child of his mistress wasn't his. It was probably thought that sticking with Henry, who earned a lot of money, would be safe. Ironically, he ended up being cuckolded. Henry's work, once highly regarded, was no longer valued, and his contracts with various companies were terminated one after the other, leaving him with a hefty amount of penalties to pay. Moreover, his careless handling of tax matters led to further reprimands, and he ended up with a massive debt. I wanted to help Henry multiple times, but Ken stopped me. I understand how you feel, but this is his trial. He needs to overcome this, or he'll just repeat the same mistakes. It was clear, though, that Ken was worried about Henry. With nowhere else to turn, Henry would come to our house, claiming his right as the grandfather of the child. However, I made the tough decision not to let him in. He then resorted to shouting outside our house, "Michelle, I was wrong. Let's make up. Let me take care of the child as his father." He was so persistent that Ken eventually had to call the police to drive him away. Thinking of the worst-case scenario, Michelle quit her job and went back to her parents' house with the baby. Henry gave up and returned to his mistress, who appeared to be quite free-spirited. But he endured, unable to make matters worse in public. In addition to that, he was living in poverty due to his debts. When Michelle learned that Henry wasn't coming around anymore, she started visiting us with the baby, enjoying gardening and cooking together. We grew even closer to Michelle's parents and now often go on trips together. We're looking forward to visiting a tourist spot on our next holiday. Despite everything that's happened, we're living very happily now.